Hey, it's me, Rod Morgan, a longtime listener and semi-professional host of the Morgan You Know podcast, a pop culture, sometimes music, sometimes movies, sometimes TV podcast, always entertaining podcast on the Morgan You Know podcast network. Listen to us wherever you get your podcast. That's an awful lot of podcasts. That's the Morgan You Know podcast.
Hello, Internet. The Morgan You Know podcast network presents Balls Brew.
Welcome back to another edition of the flagship sports podcast here on the Morgan You Know podcasting network. I am your host. My name is Rod Morgan. My normal co-host, Chris King, who you heard there at the beginning of the podcast, is actually not joining us this week. We talk about sports here, as I said, the sports podcast, baseball, basketball, football, sometimes golf ball. But many of those things are not going on right now. But college football and pro football are just around the corner. So we're going to bring in our good friend Josh Williams here in just a second. He's been off for a little while. But Jimmy, I don't want to fully talk about the baseball segment yet until Chris is able to join us again. But did you have fun doing a segment without me on Balls and Brew?
It was a lot of fun. I know Chris took the reins and drove that segment, and Evan actually does a fantastic job all the time. So that was a lot of fun, and the best part about it was a segment that you would have loved to partake in. But nope, you don't talk baseball, Rod.
That's right. I do not talk baseball. We are going to stay away from the NBA for a little while, as much as the NBA always tries to draw me back in. Unless Kevin Durant gets traded or Kyrie Irving gets traded, we're going to stay away from the NBA for a little while. But as I mentioned, football is around the corner, so that means our guy, Josh Williams, our handicapper, you're probably getting pretty excited, Josh. Like, you probably have like a calendar on your refrigerator where you're just counting down the days to football, I'd imagine, right?
Oh, yeah, baby. We got I think it's exactly 2 weeks for the Hall of Fame game. Are you pumped for some Jags-Raiders Hall of Fame game in 2 weeks?
Listen, when the Jaguars and the Raiders get together, you got to hide the women and children. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what you have to say. When those teams get together in Canton, Ohio, you can't understand the ferocity of football that will be unleashed upon all of us in the Hall of Fame game. But you know what? Let's avoid the NFL game for right now. Let's talk something we don't talk about very often, Mr. Williams. I know you're always trying to bring up college football scores on this podcast, but I don't watch as much of the college game as you do, but lots going on these days.
There is a lot going on. We got Texas and Oklahoma are bolting from the Big 12, going to the SEC, not this year, but next year. And then the big news was USC and UCLA deciding to jump ship from the Pac-12 and going to play some Big Ten ball here in a couple years in 2024. So that got everybody riled up. Is Notre Dame going to jump ship also from independent to Big Ten? We don't know yet. I'm sure we might touch on that. But, yeah, man, it's been a crazy offseason for college football.
Jimmy, let's borrow a wrestling term here for a second. We can fantasy book super conferences all we want, but there's one other thing that is pretty new to college football this year as well that I think is affecting the landscape, right?
Yeah, we've got the all-out NIL deal. It's the first non-COVID college football season, and we've got some big contracts, which I think is funny. Some people are saying salaries and contracts, and they really shouldn't be saying that, but they are saying that out loud.
Yeah, so we have guys who have traditionally been in the shadows, right? We all kind of understand that there are bags being delivered under the table and jobs that are going to family members and things of that nature. We all kind of understand that that's been happening. But now, Jimmy, those guys they're legitimized a little bit as long as it's under the guise of a student athlete is using its name, image, and or likeness to promote a product, correct? That was the idea of the rule the NCAA instituted, right?
It was the idea of the rule, but it seems like people are just getting money and gifts and things like that. And you really don't have to do too much for it.
It definitely does seem that way. Mr. Williams, I know that you have always been a proponent of paying student athletes. Are you 100% satisfied with the name, image, and likeness situation we are currently under?
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, but I mean, I'm glad that they're getting theirs, while they can. It's long overdue. The NCAA tournament for March Madness brings in a ridiculous amount of money, and it's been doing that for years, and they haven't been getting paid. So I'm all for, the sponsors or the boosters. If somebody wants to give this guy $200,000, to come in for during the transfer portal, then so be it. But I'm more for the NIL and more against the super conferences. So yeah, I thought the day that they announced all the super conferences.
No, Mr. Williams, you're not going to sidestep this. All right, I'm gonna drill down on you harder here, and I promise you have all the time in the world to rail against super conferences. But what do you mean that's a loaded question? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I think that they wanted to have more restrictions in place. It's kind of like the wild west right now. So. Like you said, there's some backdoor things going down, and there's some shady things, transfer portals, and so I think they have to do a better job in the future with some of this. But I mean, bottom line though is I am glad that the student athletes are getting some compensation.
Well, certainly, Jimmy, none of us are going to come on this podcast and say that student athletes don't deserve to get money. We're all smart enough to understand how much money is being made off of the backs of these guys. But I think that while that can be a tenet that all three of us believe, there can still be some other criticisms we have of name, image, and likeness, no?
Of course, because there is no set boundaries, no set of standards. People don't have to give the money back if they leave. The transfer portal, which is something that I always thought was ridiculous, that you had to, if you were going to transfer, you had to sit out the next season when coaches can go to and fro. But really, I said to and fro in 2022. But I just don't understand. I don't understand why the NCAA or whomever came up with this just said, okay, go, because this is exactly what was going to happen. You're going to get kids getting hundreds of thousands of dollars or even tens of thousands of dollars, and then I don't like that. I want more now. Oh no, well, I'm going to leave, and I can. And it's just messy.
Mr. Williams, let me go to a question I think you're a little more comfortable with here. I don't want you to talk anymore about the morality of it all, but do you think that this name, image, and likeness world we live under right now can make a team bubble up to the top, right? Do you think there's enough of a gray area in place where a team that's not a traditional college football powerhouse can all of a sudden be in the national championship running? Do you think we could see something like that, or is that me going too far?
I think that's more likely in basketball than football. Football is just there's just so top heavy in college football. I mean, you got Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson. Those teams are just going into this year are just far and away above everybody else, man. And everyone's trying to play catch up. And the recruiting trail is just. It's tough to catch up with those teams. In college basketball, I think you have a better chance of it because if you go after a couple guys, I mean, that can make or break your team right there. So, and we've seen some pretty crazy money thrown around for some like low level, like maybe mid-tier college basketball players down in the state of Florida. So, I would say there's a better chance for that happening in college basketball.
So the money's getting thrown around, and these guys who used to live in the shadows now basically are in what I would akin to a competition, right? They want to be the BMOC. They want to be the guy who got this athlete. They want to be the guy who can then run back to all their alumni buddies and say, hey, look at this, man. I paid for this guy to talk about my Cadillac dealership, and now we got a national championship out of it. That's what these guys want to do. But, Jim, you made a great point there that there's no actual contracts that are signed. These guys can transfer. So, Jimmy, let's spin it forward 3-4 years from now, right? Some guys who've been involved in this name, image, and likeness thing, who have shelled out millions and millions of dollars, who don't have a national championship at their particular school of choice to show for it. We're probably going to see a little bit of money peel out of the system, no, right? Like we're just dealing with an initial rush here, and then at some point the system may reset itself.
If you are 18, 19, 20, 21 right now is the time to do it, because in 5 years from now, Rod, there's going to be something called collective bargaining happening. We're going to have unions, and it's going to be two massive conferences having representation, and it's gonna be messy. A lot of lawyers. Again, there's going to be a lot going on that I don't know if the colleges and universities really want to delve into too much. So yeah, it's going to get a lot messier really, really quick. So get your money now, kids, because it ain't going to be there for long.
See, I totally agree with you here, right? I akin it to something like this, right? In the world of streaming that we live in now. Let's go back to, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 years ago at this point, where you'd run into a buddy who'd be like, oh, no, man, I got rid of cable. I'm just paying for Netflix and I'm getting all these other things for free and it's great. I'm only paying $15 a month and I'm getting everything I need. Flash forward to 7 years later, now you got to pay for all these different services. They all add up to basically $75, which is what you used to complain about your cable system being, right? And so now we're back into a world of, hey, maybe I want just a cable system. So, Jim, I think you're absolutely right there that it can be the Wild West for a little while, but when money is involved, the governing bodies usually figure out a way to start choking off that money supply and figuring out a better way to spread it out. Do they not?
Yeah. So now we are in the no one wanted cable. No one wanted the athletes not to get paid. So now everyone wants their streaming services. So we jumped from cable to where we are now. There was no Netflix where we kind of figured it out for a couple years there until people got greedy. People just got greedy right away. So eventually we're going to move back a little bit to actually get some rules down. But you're right. It's the exact same formula with streaming. We're going to go back to a bundled streaming service, kind of exactly like cable, soon, and then we'll spread off again from that. But it's going to be the same for the NIL. It's going to go. It's going to be brought back a little bit.
Mr. Williams, let me ask you this question. I think this is another one that'll be more towards how you like to talk about these things. The English Premier League, right? Soccer, one of the most successful sports leagues in the world. A lot of people will tell you I'm not the biggest beautiful game guy, but I understand that they're pretty successful. They're loved worldwide. A lot of these teams started out as the Mill team, right? Like it was literally the Mill around the corner in Liverpool. They put together a team, and then that team made its way into the league, which now became the EPL. And at some point, it had to become the Mill team was a complete separate entity from the Mill. Would you still be a fan of college football if we got to a scenario where these college football teams essentially broke off and became a semi-professional entity and away from the school? Is there something about actually college football that draws you in, or is it just you're a football fan and it doesn't matter to you the governing body that allows these teams to play one another?
I mean, I'm for the record, I'm much more of a college basketball fan than college football fan, but I understand that college football has most of the money here. They're bringing in most of the money. And, man, if you start breaking down like that, like I think that would turn a lot of fans off if you're going to do something like that.
How far away from that are we right now, though?
That's what I'm saying. Like
a year.
You're definitely right. Yeah, it could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. It could be next year, like Jimmy said. So, yeah, man, it sucks. Like that's definitely a possibility, man. This is all about money, and they do not care what the fans think.
So it's interesting because college football is fans. It's the fanatical people. I worked at Ohio State for 2 years. They literally take every M off of every sign in the entire campus during Michigan week. They don't read books by professors who went to Michigan. It is so ravenous. It's the name, it's the helmet, and that is what college football is. Now, can we, make new rivalries? Yes, but the Michigan-Ohio State does not happen unless they're in the same conference, and they're going to play every single year at the end of November or middle of November for the last game of the season. So you got to be very careful that you're not going to alienate those people. Very careful.
Yeah, and I really want to focus in on that here before we move on to the super conferences. The student athletes are the ones that suffer here, right? We all know that we've only been making an allusion to academics for a number of years at this point, right? But we really now are slamming it in the face, okay? You're going to have a woman's softball athlete at UCLA who's going to have to, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday evening, prepare to board a plane so that they can play a game in Ames, Iowa on a Wednesday and then have to come back to their campus. I mean, you're just setting these kids up to only bring money to you, and you're just not even trying to make any illusions anymore about the fact that you're a college, that these kids need to have a certain grade point average, that you're a research university, any of that. You've just completely given yourself over to the football department. So, Jimmy, what I wonder about, right? We always talk about how the WWE, you and I talk about this on our other show. Yeah, we know all the time how there's never smart people in a room trying to come together and figuring out what the best ultimate goal at the end is. What I wonder here, Jim, we've seen The Rock, our guy, trying to resurrect the XFL. We just got done with the USFL reboot season.
Did we?
Right? We also had the AAF, right, which folded after 6 weeks. So clearly there's an appetite out there for more football. Can't we come together and just say the other football league is college football and completely break all of these guys off from the few regulations that still exist because they're semi-affiliated with colleges?
Kind of like the G League for the NBA, but it's just college football. I would think that is where right now it's the trajectory we're heading, because why would anyone go to one of these other professional leagues when you can go to Ohio State and get paid $3 million a year when you're 19, for 3 years? You're getting paid more sometimes than you would as an NFL rookie if you're a 7th round draft pick. Think about that. So why would you go to the NFL and stay in college? You can't even go to the NFL before 3 years. So I think that is the trajectory it's going to now, but it can't be, because there has got to be some, there's state-funded institutions here, and are you using your athletic program to circumvent, all the student athletes, because they're not seeing that? You hit it on the head. They used to say it, but it still didn't really matter. But now they're just not even saying it anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely vocabulary that's not around anymore. So let's go to the other part of this, the super conferences that Mr. Williams made allusion to earlier and was trying to take us right there, because I know he's got some serious opinions on this. And Mr. Williams, let's just start here. Will your head explode someday if you are seeing UCLA versus Rutgers for the Big Ten basketball championship?
I had that written down, man. Whereas the super conferences, I think the fans suffer the most, because we get it, that it's great that you got your crazy fancy practice facility off all that SEC Big Ten TV deal money. The problem with that is the fans don't care about the practice facilities. You know what they care about? They care about beating their rivals, something that Jimmy touched on earlier. And they don't care about, like I said, like a Thursday night game between USC and Rutgers, And so the fans really suffer here. Who knows what's going to happen with the ACC? Seems like they're about to break too, and then Pac-12 and Big 12 are trying to fight to stay alive here. So we'll see what happens here. But the fans are suffering the most.
Jimmy, are we just going to see at some point, again, I keep asking you to forecast, but you and I do so much of this on our other show, is that are we going to see it's just going to be the Fox conference and the ESPN conference and maybe the CBS conference, and that's just ultimately where we're going to land?
And Notre Dame just plays on NBC only. That might be the way they go, because you have to fund all of these payments, and again with state funds and everything like that, we're not really sure where that's going to go moving forward. But I can definitely see Apple paying the Big Ten. Hey, here's $80 million a year. You're going to be, or $120 million a year, whatever it is, a $1 billion deal, where you're going to just be on our streaming service. Go back to streaming services again, and we're going to show all the games, and that's what you're going to use to fund your program. So it definitely could be that way.
And let's touch on Notre Dame, because I am broadcasting here in lovely Mishawaka, Indiana. Mr. Williams is right here in South Bend, Indiana, just on the other side of me, an imaginary line that divides Mishawaka and South Bend, and Notre Dame is just both in our backyards. They're the big fish still left on the pond, but what I hear is that Notre Dame is going to make a straight mafia move here and walk into NBC offices and say, hey, that football program you guys have on Saturdays? Be ashamed if you guys lose Notre Dame football coverage. Give us $75 million or you won't have it anymore. That's what I hear Notre Dame is preparing to do to NBC, Mr. Williams. How about that number?
Yeah, and I think if Notre Dame's smart, they're going to stay independent, because especially if the college football playoff stays at 4. Now, it will probably in the future go to 6 or 8. But think about this. If it stays at 4, you've got USC and Ohio State now in the Big Ten. You got Ryan Day's only 43 years old. Lincoln Riley's only 38 years old. I think those Saban is 70. At some point or another, Saban's got to go away. So I envision USC and Ohio State and possibly maybe Notre Dame, but USC and Ohio State with all the recruiting, all around the country now, I feel like those two colleges are going to escalate towards the top for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And if you're Notre Dame, why would you want to be in the same conference? Do you really think the committee, if there is a committee still then, would take 3 teams from the same conference? Whereas I think Notre Dame's going to get a leg up if they go independent, or if they stay independent, maybe have 4 or 5 games still in the ACC. So that changes if it goes to 8 playoff games or 8 teams in the playoff. Then maybe Notre Dame would jump to the Big Ten. But I think I'm with you, Rod. I think NBC is a huge recruiting tool, and the way Notre Dame travels is a huge recruiting tool also. So I don't know. We'll see.
Jimmy, are you going to play off of the idea that I love that Williams thinks there's still going to be some sort of BCS committee, right? Like,
yeah, I was going to say that.
It's just whoever wins the conference is going to be in the playoffs, right?
You have to be very careful what you wish for here, because you want these mega conferences, but now you're playing better teams. And if you play better teams, you're going to see a lot more 2-3 loss teams that you normally wouldn't see. So that could be just really destructive there. But again, you're not going to – we're thinking in the now. In the future, they're not going to care about Fresno State going undefeated because they're not going to be in the same league. The NCAA is going to be something different. These powerhouse conferences are either going to be their own entity where it's whoever wins, you get the trophy, or they may go against each other in like a super type bowl type situation there. My thing, too, is who says Rutgers is still going to be in the Big Ten? Big Ten may say, you're not good enough in sports. We're good.
Yeah, but I believe, well, listen, if we're going by not good enough, let's be honest. Texas doesn't deserve to be in the SEC right now based on the last 10 years of their football program, but because they're Texas and the money they have and the reach they have, that's why they're in. Now, I agree with you that Rutgers is not a national powerhouse, but it does at least allow the Big Ten Network and now Fox, who has big dealings with the Big Ten, to be able to say we have a footprint in New York, right? I don't agree with all of these conferences trying to reach and say that the TV markets matter, but I understand why the TV networks are saying it, and I understand why the conferences are then trying to say, well, look, we can spray to all these different places. I get it, but I think Mr. Williams touched on this point earlier. None of us started out watching college football because we were like, you know what, I really hope that the Big Ten gets a huge deal from a broadcast corporation, and that will really make me happy. None of us care about that. We want to see IU play Purdue. We want to see Michigan play Michigan State. We want to see Notre Dame play Michigan, and they don't do that anymore. We want to see USC play, we want to see these games that we grew up watching Keith Jackson and Brent Musburger talk to us about on ABC, right? The games that really mattered where the stadiums would be full and the pageantry and all of that stuff. That, to me, is why fans and anybody likes college football. Mr. Williams, you touched on it a little bit there, and I think we're getting so far away from that for a homogenized, jazzed up product just for television. I mean, anybody ever seen the movie Rollerball? We have to start thinking about making rules for our sport that are better for our sport and not just complete free market and what serves television networks. I know that's hard to do, but somebody's going to have to do it somewhere along the line, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that Texas and Oklahoma, they took the bag. They took the bag. You don't think they had a better situation in the Big 12 where they were just rolling over everybody and their terrible defenses? And now they're going to get a wake-up call going into the SEC. But you know what? They got their money, so they're all good, I guess. But their fan bases, you're probably going to expect to lose more often than they're used to. So, yeah, man, is it about money or is it about fandom? So we'll see.
I think money is just playing a huge reckoning in so many of our sports these days, is it not, Mr. Jamariska? You know what I mean? When you and I were kids, right, we understood that professional athletes were professional athletes, but it just seems as if the money has just made everything so much dirtier these days. And I know we sound like old man yelling at clouds when we say that, but it's just hard to ignore the facts, is it not?
It really is. And you just said professional sports, and we're talking college, which is now professional sports, and that proves your point. Money has taken over. Money has ruled everything. It's very interesting, and it's also interesting that the college athletes are not employees of the university at all. The university does not give them money; they get money from outside sources. So the university wipes their hands of it.
Yeah, and how convenient for them as well to be able to wipe their hands of it. The only question I have here is some of the pushback you will get about all of these things is, well, this is America, free market, get that money, right? It's the same argument that we hear with the Live Tour, right? Another way that money is just completely meshing up sports these days. But ultimately, what I was going to say there, I believe, I lost my train of thought because I get so fired up about this whole college thing because I shouldn't be that fired up about it, right? I really shouldn't be that fired up about it. But where I was going to go is people will tell you free market, money, all of the above. But you know what? Everybody in this country loves the National Football League, okay? And there are a bunch of rules in place in the National Football League right now that are not necessarily free market, that are not necessarily everybody gets an equal chance. And nobody has a problem with any of that when it comes to the NFL because the NFL says, you know what we need to make sure we do? Put an entertaining product on the field that the fans care about. The NBA starting to have this reckoning, and baseball, as you guys touched on it last week, Jim, on that segment that I was not on but did listen to, which was even more torturous, I think, than me being involved in it. So perhaps next time in the future I'll just be involved in the baseball segment. But it's just, we have to have somebody somewhere saying, guys, this is going to hurt for a little bit. And it doesn't seem right now that this is ultimately the most, in quotation marks, fair thing to do. But in the long run, you're going to thank me for it. And I don't know who's got the guts to be able to make those kind of calls these days, Jimmy.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to make that call. And until there's some regulation comes down, and it's not coming from the NCAA. It's not. It's going to have to be the conferences, but then if you have a conference of 20 teams, there are 20 people that have their own interests at heart. That's why you need a commissioner. But then the commissioner works for those 20 people. It took the NFL a long time to get to where it is, and it's not perfect, like you said. It's going to take college football a very long time, and we're dealing with very young and very impressionable kids, which young adults, should I say, not kids, young adults. And it's a lot of people are going to get run over and forgotten, and that sucks.
It absolutely does. And I think that's the other thing that I want to touch on here, right? Is if you've got a small college or university near you that you pull for, or you happen to graduate from a school that's not so-called one of these big schools, get out and support them as much as you can, because it's going to be increasingly harder and harder for these types of schools to even field athletic teams. And I think at some point we're going to force all of these colleges and universities to make a decision. Do we play sports or do we worry about academics? And that's terrible. That's terrible. I love sports, and we talk about sports so often on this podcast network. But if sports is going to become the end-all, be-all for all things money and all things television and funneling all decisions that are made around universities now, that's just not really where I want to live. And I don't think it is where you want to live either, Mr. Williams.
No, I don't. You guys, nailed it on the head there. I don't really have too much to add.
Let me ask you this. Could there be a commissioner for college football? Do you think if they had a commissioner like Jimmy hinted at a little bit there, that would smooth things along? And do you have a name for us? Who could it be?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm not in the weeds for college football. I'm not even sure who that would be. But I think that's a decent idea. And maybe have a few assistants there, so it's not just one guy has his control.
Well, we got to get your guy Billis for basketball, because we all know that you're worried more about this end on basketball. So we got to get your guy Billis involved.
I do like some college basketball, yeah. And there's even talk that the March Madness tournament might not be secure in the next 5 to 10 years, which holy cow, man, we're gonna have an hour pot on that if March Madness ever goes away, but. Yeah, man, that's a question probably for somebody more in the weeds for college football. But, yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Jimmy, Kirk Herbstreit, commissioner of college football. What do you think?
I like it. He played. He's been around it. He knows the ins and outs of everything. He would get some good people around him. He may kick Michigan out, so that might be something we'd have to work with. But other than that, someone who's been around and knows. And again, I'm like Williams. I'm not
Peyton
really
Manning?
sure, but no, I think we need somebody who's been like an Oliver Luck type person who brought in for the XFL or maybe an agent actually might be a good thing.
Agents do so well as GMs in the NBA, so yeah, why not
they
try
do.
an
I
agent
knew
as
I'd
a
get you
college
back
football?
to the NBA, but no, someone who knows the game and has a lot of people that aren't just going to say yes, which is a really hard thing to do when you're that high up.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like that's the last thing I wanted to reiterate here, okay? I don't want this to be taken that any of us on this podcast have anything against college athletes finally getting the money they deserve. But I do want to say we have to think about the way to install some guardrails, or we're going to risk losing the product that we love so much to a sport that's similar like rollerball. Right now, that's a farce, and that's way into the future, and they're playing a few things up to try to make a point. But so many of those themes in rollerball, I'm talking about the James Caan version now, all right? Don't even talk to me about the LL Cool J Chris Klein version. It's absolutely terrible. But the original with James Caan brings up a lot of themes. There's a lot of gambling that goes on, right? It's the only thing that matters. The betting lines are always moving up and down. There's much more violence portrayed on screen, and it's just, I worry that if we are only saying, well, the market itself is going to figure it all out, where we end up in the long run. So I hope that there are some people out there that are asking these difficult questions in rooms far more important than my basement studios of the Morgan Podcasting Network. Jimmy, any last points here before we close up shop?
No, I think you did a very good job there.
Mr. Williams, how about you, buddy? What do you got for us as we close up shop?
I want to give a shout out to the Birmingham Stallions, the champions of the USFL. Their coach, none other than Lou Holtz's son, Skip Holtz. You guys mentioned the USFL twice on this podcast. It wasn't even me, the guy who watched the USL. So shout out to Skip Holtz and the Birmingham Stallions.
Wow, that's
nice.
dedication, Williams.
That is dedications. Well, Mr. Williams, we will be having you back here rather quickly. I have one cool, fun idea that I want to do about NFL broadcasting, and then we want to get you in for a couple of season preview episodes. So your long hiatus is going to be over here soon, Mr. Williams.
Let's go. We got some NFL right around the corner. Let's go.
This episode, Balls and Brew, is dropping for you at the beginning of the week instead of the end of the week because, Jimmy, we have some pretty big wrestling news at the end of this week.
Got SummerSlam coming up really soon, and we'll see what happens. It's the card is ever changing. We'll see. It's going to be fun.
For you sports fans out there that don't check in on Jimmy and I's wrestling podcast, I believe Pat McAfee is essentially the second headliner of SummerSlam at this point in his match versus a former NFL player and a former roommate of his on the Indianapolis Colts.
Yes, he and Baron Corbin are going to go one-on-one, and I have a feeling Pat McAfee's going to win again. The man can do no wrong right now.
He certainly can't. That one will be available for you in this very feed later this week. And then I think, Jimmy, that following week,
Big week.
The 100th episode, right? Are we going to drop that not next week, but the following?
Yep, we have in 2 weeks, we'll have our 100th episode of the Morgan podcast, and it's a good one.
Yeah, we had some fun getting that one together. Make sure you stay in this very feed right here. All of our episodes come in this very feed, so just make sure you keep checking out here for whether it's named Balls and Brew for sports, Yeah We Know for wrestling, or the Morgan for pop culture. We're always right here in your feed. We appreciate you giving us a follow and telling your friends. I guess I normally go to Chris here, but he's not here. So, Mr. Williams, I'm going to have you get the final word tonight.
For Chris and his Golden Corral dinner, goodbye, Internet.
Shout out Golden Corral.